Assalamu alaikum and welcome to an episode of Muslim Female Leaders, a program where we interview Muslim women in leadership positions and on boards. We are joined today by Dr. Safinah Hambali, who is a principal dentist at Northvale Dental. Some background on Dr. Safinah. She migrated to Melbourne with her family from Singapore at the age of 9. She completed her IB diploma at Ivanhoe Grammar School before spending 7 years at the University of Melbourne, where she graduated with a Bachelor of Biomedicine and a Doctor of Dental Surgery. In October last year, she opened her very own private practice called Northvale Dental in the suburb of Northvale. Welcome, Dr. Safinah. Could we begin by asking, as a Muslim woman, as a principal dentist, tell us about what it was like growing up across 2 continents and what inspired you to take this ambitious path?
Thank you for having me today. Well, look, it's like there's lots I could start from, but when I first came to, education was such a big part for my parents. That was very important to them. So when we came to Melbourne, it was about going to a Muslim school, getting that sort of academic and also that Islamic studies sort of part, that opportunity that Melbourne has to offer. So if there's any Arabic speakers listening to this, Safinah actually means a big ship. So it's sort of a very unique Muslim name. And so naturally, in my first parent-teacher interview at this Muslim school, the Arab teacher would ask my mum, so why did you name your daughter Safinah? And he would be like, do you know Safinah means like a ship? And my parents or my mum was like, oh yeah, it does mean a ship. We did that on purpose. But Safinah's name is actually Safinah Hidayati. And Hidayati means guidance. So pretty much my parents named me the guiding ship or the ship that shows the way. So in a way, maybe I was meant to be a natural born leader, or it was sort of in my name that, one day I would lead something. So, which it's kind of cool. I think my name is quite cool, but my sister hates it when I use ship analogies. But with the practice that I'm currently embarking on, this big journey in my life where I decided to open my own practice from scratch, which we are sort of sitting in today, I'm sort of the captain of this ship. And my aim, and one of the reasons, people always ask me, why do you want to open your own practice? What is your aim of being, being a principal dentist? And to be honest, I love dentistry. I love general dentistry. I love what I do. If you asked me 10 years ago, I wouldn't have said to you I would be a dentist. I didn't know what this profession was really all about, but I actually really love it. And I think it's a great way to connect with people. And I think my personality, my skills all sort of work in this sort of environment. But one of the reasons why I wanted to run my own practice or open my own practice was actually because I wanted to almost challenge myself and see, can I be a great leader, run a successful practice and grow and build a successful practice? So in a way, it's a weird sort of connection, but, talking about how, I felt, I guess, naturally as I grew up, I was kind of like this. I felt like, I could take a more a leading role. I was this captain of a ship. And then I was like, you know what, let's see how we go in this part of my life, sort of running a practice. So yeah, that maybe why am I going on to this ambitious path? Really, it's about challenging myself, seeing what I can do, what I can bring to my community. And if I can sort of build something and be proud of something, and hopefully people who support me and love me also are proud of what I'm trying to do here.
That's really interesting, actually, how you mentioned your name. What's in a name? One of the things that we have to do as parents, one of our obligations, the rights of a child, is to give them a good name that they can be proud of. It's incredibly inspiring to see that, the impact that can have on the child. You see yourself as a leader, as a guiding ship, and that's the purpose of the name. The meaning of your name, and you're sort of fulfilling your fate through your name. Isn't that wonderful?
Well, I've sort of embraced it because there's a lot of Arab-speaking people that I meet here in a multicultural society, and they do get curious. People who don't know what what Safinah means in Arabic, they think that the name is really nice. Whereas someone, they're kind of curious, and if they're brave enough, they'll ask me, oh, Safinah means a ship, and I'm sort of like, yep, I own it, sort of thing.
Wonderful. Now, you talked a little bit about your journey. Can I ask, did you come across any obstacles along the way, either in general or particularly because of your faith and your practice?
Well, look, it's very like, look, life is not meant to be easy. We are constantly sort of tested. So definitely I've experienced heaps of obstacles as, a young Muslim female growing up in Australia in this Western sort of society. I mean, one of the things that I've always sort of, there's a lot of expectations as a young girl or a young Muslim girl. And, what you'd expect or what you think the society expects of you is very different to even reality. There's a lot of I would like sort of own up that there's a lot of naivety as you grow up as well. So there's a lot of learning that happens. I'm not super young anymore, but there's lots of learnings that happen. And one of the biggest things in my life, when we first came, so I did go to a Muslim school when we came to Australia, and I spent 6 years at this Muslim school before I decided myself to actually move from a Muslim environment into basically a sort of I spent my last 3 years of school in an Anglican grammar school where I went from an environment where all the girls were wearing hijab to I was the only one wearing a hijab, in a school where, there is sort of a religious component. So that was a very big sort of culture shock for me because, there were a lot of classmates that probably never met directly a Muslim who are an obvious, like, because obviously I wear the hijab, it's like very obvious that I'm Muslim, even though I think I'm obvious. Some people still, they'll ask, so are you Muslim? Sort of thing, because for them, they're not exposed to maybe someone like me, or, it's sort of like, I was just different. And for me as well, it was a big culture shock because there was it was such a big learning journey for me. Like I had to really put myself out there and be vulnerable and and I was 16 at that time, so meaning that I had to make new friends, make new connections, and like I think I was definitely a big risk taker at that stage of my life. But I think that's what, like, growing up as a young Muslim, and if you want to be the best version of yourself, it's super important to sort of find that courage to learn more about yourself, because the biggest obstacle, I think, living in a Western society is working out your identity, working out who you are. Because I think before you can sort of, like, people can't know you if you don't know yourself as well. So I think that, like, the way you sort of learn yourself or shape yourself or shape your identity is really sort of being vulnerable, having that courage to reach out, put yourself out there, and trying to grow and know who you are before you can sort of present yourself to society. And I think even relating that to being a dentist, which is very, like, you're very connected, you have to be very connected to people, you need to be able to make someone feel comfortable and all that sort of stuff. I think if I didn't know what sort of person I am or what I can bring to the table, I think that would be hard for me to communicate effectively, to make connections, and to build and to lead like something like a practice. So, and it's might be a bit of a roundabout way, but I think, like, me growing up, learning about myself really, and even those a few experience, like that major experience where I branched out into society, maybe that really shaped me to who I am, and I guess I was able to embrace this sort of my career pathway.
Amazing. So I can really see that choosing to go to an all-girl grammar school, Catholic school, did you say?
It was a mixed school, but yeah, it was an Anglican sort of
Anglican school.
Yeah.
I think that had many benefits from what you're telling me, because it really built interpersonal skills, and having the Islamic school background, the foundation, it would have really helped in going in there with confidence in your identity and who you are. So a lot of people, then you do sometimes, as a Muslim woman, come across environments where you are the only Muslim woman in the room.
Yeah.
And in those opportunities, you're the representative, you're the token.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Muslim.
Yep. and you like you get the questions, you know, like when it's Ramadan and you're fasting, you know, you
Yeah.
and the thing is like if they were curious, they would ask you
Yeah.
know, sort of like you could explain something like Eid to them, or you could explain something like simple if something was to happen, you know, you could it is sort of you almost like you are the banner, like the face of almost a whole community, which is very
Billions,
interesting. So
billions, 1.8 billion
yeah,
people, you're the face.
but for me it was great because you know in Muslim school you learn like Islamic studies and it becomes like almost like a subject. Whereas when you get put into the real, I think a lot of Muslim girls when they get you know they leave school or they go into uni, it's almost like you're now tested on what you've been learning or what your parents have taught you, how you've been brought up. Like you're tested on your religion. You know, it's not like someone's telling you you have to go pray at Zuhur time. You have to actually then go and pray. You know, it's like it becomes like because at the end of the day, our religion is not like a set of rules. It's pretty much a way of life. So I think for me, as I moved into that sort of when I was in that environment, it really for me helped me understand Islam and how I was practicing being a Muslim because it was really like, and we talk about you know, the Prophet peace be upon him being like a sort of a role model or leading by example. It's almost like now you have to be an example. You're not just like following some rules or something like that. So yeah, it definitely shaped me immensely.
So I can see that the the added benefit of having experiencing both sides, or not being in a bubble, so to
Right.
speak, has really has its benefits. And one of the things that I'm really passionate about is encouraging young people to get involved with interfaith projects, especially in the senior classes, and just to get that exposure, just to be comfortable speaking with people that are from different faiths, different backgrounds, different ethnicities. Because when you do finish school, it really you have that confidence when you go in there. Otherwise, some people can be confronted um, if they've never been exposed to a different environment. I wanted to ask also, do you have any specific advice for young people, girls in particular, that may be looking to pursue a similar path?
Well, look, when I was in my undergrad days, I did a lot of tutoring. I tutored lots of different like students, you know, from preps to like year 12 sort of kids. And my favorite advice that I would share with them would be that it doesn't matter whether you're a doctor, a teacher, or even a janitor, as long as you love what you're doing, that's the most important part. And I think even like, for example, being a dentist, running a practice is not easy. So if I didn't love it, or I didn't embrace the challenges that or the obstacles that get thrown at me, then I wouldn't probably like I probably shouldn't be doing it. So I think my biggest advice is really, you know, love what you're pursuing, love what you want to do, and also like at the end of the day, it's all back. It comes down to what is your intention in your life, and I think to connect to what we were talking about before, at the end of the day, when you do go out into the wide world, you can be the only Muslim in in the room. You know, in your career, you might be like that might be a huge defining factor of who you are and who you appeal to. And even like for example, me being in Northcote, which is not we don't have a high Muslim population here, but it's like you're meeting people and they're like you don't want them to sort of see the scarf or see me you being a Muslim. You want them to see you being like a dentist. So for me, for example, like I said, intention, like having the right intention or clear intention was very important in the choices I made in my life, in my journey of where I am now. If let's like I always tell people, if I wanted to make a lot of money, this is not the this is not the profession to be in. But it's about really like for me, it was about connecting to my community, doing what I think I can excel at, and like basically working to my strengths. So I think and your intention never is set in stone. It always can change, with time as you grow, as you learn about more things, as you learn about yourself. So I think that's one of my biggest advices. Love what you do and really have it clear what you're trying to achieve here, because you don't want to sort of like haphazardly move through your life and not own the choices that you make. You don't want someone to decide what you have to do or what you should be doing. You want to decide for yourself, yes, I love this, I want to do this, I want to pursue it. And it just means so much more to you and to many people if you just sort of embrace your journey, sort of thing. And I think one of the biggest thing that I've sort of learned over so many years now is that at the end of the day, especially with times of uncertainty like we are in today, really having that faith and that trust in like Allah's plan for you, or what, that everything happens for a reason. Like that's super important in sort of like making sure you stay on your path that you're trying to pursue. So inshallah, that's where I'm trying to like keep on. But yeah.
Beautiful. So have a clear intention, love what you do, and trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's plan, inshallah.
Yeah.
Dr. Safinah, do you have any closing remarks for us before we wrap up our interview today?
Well, I think maybe everyone might, hopefully you got a bit of a gist of this, but I think being a young female Muslim in a Western world or Western society is actually a great opportunity for us, not only for what we can bring to people around us, but also for ourselves to learn. Because I think I've learned so much about who I am being here, like growing up the way I have. And I think you definitely don't want to forget who you are. And I think like, it's taken me years to work out that you really kind of run away from this identity. It's important that you actually embrace it, because people like they actually sort of like they get very impressed, or they're very like supportive of it, or it's sort of like that's a huge part. Like people are like, they look at me now and they're like, it's amazing like what you can do being who you are. And I think for me, it also took me a bit of time to embrace that sort of part of my identity. And I think for me as well, being a Muslim, like never let that be an obstacle to, limit what you can achieve. I think you can really go for there's no limit to anything, to be honest. Like definitely like take the risk, take all the opportunities that come your way, because you don't want to live life with regrets. And at the end of the day, being a Muslim, it's your way of life. It shouldn't be something that restricts you into this path or that path. And that's why, like I said before, having the trust or having your faith is actually super important, especially when you're not sure what's going to happen tomorrow, what's going to happen next year. So I think we need to make sure we embrace every day, take all the opportunities, and a big part of it I probably should have to say as well, finishing off, is that having that support as well, like surrounding yourself with important people, is a huge part of allowing me to be who I am. Because if I didn't have that support with my family, my friends, I think I couldn't do what I'm aiming or trying to do here. So yeah.
Amazing. Such an inspiring story, Dr. Safinah. So embrace your identity, take risks, and surround yourself with support, a support network that you can rely on, that's going to be your cheerleaders and push you through. Thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Safinah from Northvale Dental in Northcote, and sharing your story, your very inspiring story with us today. JazakAllah khair.
Thank you very much.